Guys, it's Austin from Second Life Sneakers. We're finally back with a new video. We got a fun one today. Today is about how to handle complications in your sole swaps. So the problem that I had here is that the shoe is just sitting a little bit too high for the sole. This is a pair of 1994 Jordan 1s, I think. That came in for a swap, and we're using a I think these are a 2020 sole. So this one is fixed. I haven't glued it into place yet, but the problem that we're having is that the sole doesn't come up to the glue line. So that means that the original were cut different. I'm gonna bring it up closer so you can see what I mean. But you see here where we've got, this is laid flat and we still have a good bit of the old glue line showing there, and a little bit up here, and we could maybe finesse this to hide it, but it would have to flatten out that toe box, which might be uncomfortable. And you can see we're not quite lined up where we want to be at the toe, and where it's really a problem is on this inside. That is way too much of the raw glue line to allow to be seen. And the problem, what's causing this problem, is that we've got a pretty shallow cup sole here that's cut for the newer model, and our 90s model here had a lot of overhang on the on the cut of leather that they're using, and so they've got that pulled back on the lasting board. Over time, the leather becomes a little less workable and stiffens, and so now instead of being able to kind of mold that into place, it's forcing the shoe to sit higher. So what we're gonna need to do, what I did on this other one, is we're gonna deconstruct this lasting board, and this is something that you should really only do if you really trust yourself with what you're doing. So we're gonna deconstruct the last, and you can see back here where I've already done it to the back side. We're gonna cut down that last so that it fits custom to that new sole that we have there. And then once we're done with that, then we need to reattach this last so that the shoe doesn't lose its shape, and that we've got something solid to get it connected to the new sole. So I'll show you on this pair how that's already been done. Get that out. But you see how I've got the last. Now it's still it's a little short for the backside, but we're not too worried about the backside because the backside just kind of notches into place. But you can see where I've got it pretty well connected all the way around, and that gives the shoe that shape, and it also solidifies the shoe to something that's bonding it to the sole. So we're gonna put this back over here. I'm gonna heat these and get these clamped a little bit later. Right now I want to go ahead and do this. So first step, we just need to pry off our lasting board. We might need a heat gun for this, and we want to be slow and careful about it because we don't want to rip anything. We want everything to be reusable. Nice. And normally you would just move the lasting board a little bit rather than cutting the leather, because ideally you just don't want to have to make alterations like that to the shoe. But in this case, like I said earlier, the leather isn't as workable as it was 30 years ago when the shoe was made. And so if I move it further back, it still is going to have a little bit of a height issue, and it's still going to create a bit of a barrier to our swap. So in my professional opinion, I think our best move here is cut it, re-glue it. It wasn't stitched in at all originally, so it's fine to just not worry about stitching it in. Just glue it with the barge. And you'll see here when I take this off, the shoe will kind of lose its shape. The lasting board is really what gives the shoe that shape and holds everything into place. Alright, we got our last off. Now we need to take a pair of shears, and we're going to want to just cut it till maybe about right there. So we're going to be cutting off a pretty significant portion, but I'm just going to try to match kind of what I did to the other pair. There are some areas that are more problematic than others. We really want to hit this inside toe here. But yeah, I would only recommend trying this one if you are really confident that it is going to improve your fitment and that you know what you're doing. Because you could potentially damage your shoe. Now, it wouldn't be like a damage that would be like a world ender. You would be able to probably, a professional could figure out what you did and undo it. But still wouldn't be ideal. A general rule of thumb is that as long as any damage happens below this glue line here, to the point where you're not going to see it in the finished product, it's generally savable. Alright, so we got all that cut off from our last, or for the part that was connected to the last. And now we need to re-glue our last. So what we're going to do, take our barge, and then I had a brush here. Okay, here we go. We're just going to line the edges of both the last and the upper with some fresh barge cement, and then we'll put them together. And that should hold them into place, and the bond will get stronger over time. But this is kind of just some behind the scenes to a swap and some of the complications that can arise, and really it is a process putting a sole that's 25 years apart onto this older upper like this. So this is sometimes when your projects are taking a little bit of extra time, this might be what's going on behind the scenes. This problem isn't one that I encounter specifically too much. This is really the first time that I've had to do it, especially to this severity. I've maybe done it a couple other times, but never had to cut off this much of it. But it's pretty much always something. I mean, you're gonna have to shave your air units most of the time. You're gonna have to kind of finesse things into place sometimes, and it's all just part of the game. If you do notice a fitment issue like this too, it's best to just fix that before you go ahead and put the sole on. It may be tempting to try to just make it work, But a lot of times, if you know that it's not going to work and you try to force it, you end up just wasting even more time and potentially damaging the shoe. So if you can see that it's just not going to fit, there's no way to make it happen, go ahead and don't put it together. Make a plan, really hash it out, and then find a way to put it together where you're not having to finesse it too much. Okay, so we've applied everything on the upper, now we're going to start on the last. And the last does look kind of gross, but that's just what it is when you have a 30-year-old last that has been well loved, we'll say. And try not to get any of that grime into our glue, because that dirt can really like weaken it. But it's gonna be time for a new can fairly soon anyways. I will try to do some more like POV videos for some of this restoration work, but for this one it's a pretty delicate process, and I just didn't want that head camera hanging in my face while I'm trying to get these put back together. And if you're watching this and these are your shoes, don't be afraid. We are going to get them perfect. everything's been applied. Now it's time to start piecing them together. The last is going to be our guide here. We're going to just bend the Jordan into shape to make it fit the last. So we've got toe here, side there, other side there. And we're not too worried about the strength of our bond yet. We just kind of want to make sure that everything's in the right position right now. But you'll see it kind of come together as I'm pressing this down. We're going to go ahead and press every edge that looks like a weak spot. And it looks like it's holding pretty nice. It's a little loose at the back, just like the other one. But there we have it. Not falling off. Nicely into place. And now, instead of being kind of like this shapeless mass of leather, we have a Jordan 1 again. And we're going to put it in here just to make sure. Actually, we are going to make one little adjustment real quick. There's a little bit of overhang at the front. We're just going to snip that off. Nice. Okay. Alright, so the fitment is now much better, and it's to a point where it's workable. So you can see, hopefully you can see from that far back. And it's hard right now because it's not glued into place, so it's constantly moving, but the back is right at the line, the side is right at the line. This part, we don't have nearly as much coming up over this side. Our toe hits right at the edge like it's supposed to. Bring it a little closer here. So that'll come in like that. Sits nice on that edge now. And now we've got a clean and consistent fitment between our two pairs. Hopefully I'm not too close. It's really hard to tell from this angle like what I'm showing on camera. But yeah, that's basically it. And if we need to, we can grind a little more at the toe, but I don't want to drop the toe too much. It still looks like there might be a little bit of overage, but I think that's just the way that it's sitting right now. I think once we actually like put it together, it's gonna be right where it needs to be. And the toes where you want to be careful too. You don't want to drop it too far. If you drop the toe too far, like if I were to take this back apart and shouldn't have put that much pressure on it yet. But if I was to take this back apart and then redo the toe and cut it even lower, we could have a situation where this sits too high and then comes up to like right here on the toe, and it looks a little funky when that happens. You can usually tell when a swap's been done where the fitment was a little forced and things weren't really clicking the way that they were meant to before the shoe was put together. And this is something that I actually struggled with, like early on in my career of restorations. Was I just didn't think to like make these kinds of alterations to the shoe themselves. Part of it's a confidence thing too, and just like you're doing something that could potentially damage the shoe, so you need to do it right. And sometimes it's hard to get through that mental battle. But as long as you know what you're doing, and you're doing everything carefully, and you're trying to do everything the right way, then it should work out. And you can see that things like this pop up behind the scenes, and you gotta just find a way to make it work. I could have asked the customer to send me another pair of donors, but honestly, I think that it's more a problem with the original shoe, with how different it's cut. Like, I think pretty much any donor that we would have picked probably would have had this problem. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I'm gonna get the uppers to these attached and bonded to the bottoms, and we're gonna focus on just doing the bottoms first, and then I do the sides after. That's how I usually do my swaps. So make sure that everything's centered in place with the bottoms, and then go around and do the sides later. But I'll drop another video on fitment and on putting shoes together. Sorry, I was one of my neighbors pulling off, but yeah, I'll pump out another video soon on some similar stuff, or like just how to tackle fitment issues and how to reconstruct the shoe. So hope you enjoyed this one. Hope it wasn't too nerve-wracking if these are your shoes. And thanks for watching. I'll see y'all again soon. Bye, y'all.